LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past came out last Friday. I got to join a roundtable interview with the writers and producers of the show, Dan Hernandez and Benji Samit, to talk about the very compelling villain Solitus, how they personally designed some of the mashup ships you'll see in the show, bringing Jackson and Revan to the screen, and more. So here is the full interview.
Hi Benji, hi Daniel, how are you? I'm
We're great,
Tanya.
Tanya. How you go? How you doing?
Good, good, good. So I'm Tanya and I'm representing Kerwin and Keith on behalf of Father Son Galaxy. And my question is, there's numerous characters in Star Wars. How did you determine which characters would appear in this series?
It's a great
It's
question.
it's it was one of the hardest questions that we
Yeah, I think
had to
that was one
face.
of the biggest challenges of this entire show and the previous series, where it's just there's so much, and we wanted to celebrate it all, and but we can't obviously squeeze everything in. I think our initial scripts were way too long, and it
They
was
told it they were like, you got to stop. You have to stop writing.
And so it started to come down to a few different categories. Like one, what are the weird edges of the Star Wars galaxy that we personally were most excited to see? Two, what did we think other people might view this as their only opportunity to see? Someone like Jackson is such a deep, old character that has never come to life on the screen before. And so we're just like, hey, maybe this is the opportunity to make it happen. And then there were ones that were things that we felt that for the story that we wanted to tell made the most sense.
Well, things like one of the questions we pose to ourselves is what are the combinations of characters that we have never seen or probably never will see in a Star Wars story? And that's where putting the Skywalker family unit together really became something that we got very excited about because he said, oh, we've never seen Anakin, Padme, Luke, and Leia on screen at the same time. We never will. Probably, I mean, maybe I should never say never, but I, I don't think
It's hard to
it's hard to
imagine.
imagine that happening at this point. Maybe, some smart person in the future will figure out how to do that. But we said, this might be our only opportunity to see that actual family unit together. So we should do that. And then once he made a decision like that, that informed having Pirate Queen Amidala because we said, well, where has she been? What is she up to? How can she enter the story in a really meaningful way that is both funny and emotional, but also forwards the plot? And so those are the kinds of decisions that we made on the front end and some characters didn't make it all the way to the end. Some we wanted to use and we just couldn't find the right spot for them, or we tried and
Yeah.
just some just didn't work out. So it's some I still feel sad about.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm with Friends of the Force podcast. Congratulations on the second installment of Rebuild the Galaxy. It was such a joy to watch.
Thank you.
With not just all of Star Wars at your fingertips, but the world of Lego as well. We see the introduction of Brickhead's Ahsoka as well as the extra tall Chewbacca figure. As somebody who has that Chewbacca set, this was I immediately picked up on this and thought it was absolutely hilarious. How did bringing in these different worlds of Lego come about?
Yeah, so I mean, this is when you're making a sequel, part of it is like, how do we top what we did before? Where do we go? And some of that is in terms of storytelling, how do we tell a bigger story? But also, we really wanted more of a scope here. And if the first series was celebrating Lego Star Wars, how do we celebrate it even more? And that's when we got excited about this idea of exploring all of the weird edges of Lego Star Wars and things that we can't see ever in anything else. Like this, we actually had the framework to see a giant brick built Chewbacca or Brickhead's Ahsoka. We've never seen Brickheads interacting with minifigs in anything before, and there might not even be anything else that gives you that opportunity like this. And so we got really excited about just like exploring every edge of Lego the same way we were exploring every edge of Star Wars.
But that meant that we had to figure out a sensible in-galaxy reason that such a thing would ever occur, and that's where Forcehold came from.
Yeah.
Forcehold sort of functions as like the Lego that gets caught under the couch. Like, or now that my kids are doing Lego all the time, just I find them everywhere. And so we said, well, what about those pieces? as these versions of the galaxy are rebuilt, there must be a few that fall through the cracks. And that's where once we had that idea, we said, "Oh, what if there's a whole place where those pieces go? What's going on over there?
Yeah.
How does time function there? What kind of Lego are getting lost in there?" So and once we had that brainstorm, we said, "Oh, there's really nothing that we can't do now because we have an organic sort of really plot-centric reason that this is happening."
Hi, this is Alex from Star Wars Explained.
Hi, Alex.
I wanted to talk about Solitus because I thought he was a fantastic villain that honestly builds off a lot of the stuff we've already talked about. Dan Stevens' performance was great, but I also see him as someone who is against all of the weirder edges. He's against fun and playfulness and diversity. So can you talk about how you developed his character and his design?
Yeah, he was a character that we were really excited to create, and when we were trying to figure out what to do for this second set of episodes, we're in the first season. It's about Sig versus Deb, two brothers fighting over how to play with Lego. Essentially, one wants to build, the other wants to break, and it's that. And we, compare that to Jedi versus Sith and building versus breaking. And so for this set, we were like, well, what is a different threat that can affect both building and breaking? And it got us thinking about, in the Lego fandom, which I am a part of for a long time, people refer to their dark ages, which is the period in which you go where you're not playing Lego anymore. Like you have that moment where when you're a teenager and someone's like, oh, it's not cool to play with Lego. And so you stop. And then when you're an adult, you suddenly rediscover your love for it. And people refer to that time off as their dark ages. People will be like, oh, I wish I had that Lego set, but it came out during my dark ages and I was never able to get it. And so, we like that as a concept of someone who's just like, all this building and breaking, you're just children playing with toys. Like, stop. You've got to grow up. But so that was the Lego side of it. And then on the Star Wars side of it, we felt that paired really nicely with the idea of someone being like Jedi, Sith. It's two sides of the same coin caught in like this endless battle. Like there's something above it, just stop. It's messy. You're being children. And so we thought that the Star Wars theme and the Lego theme kind of paired perfectly together to create this character of Solitus. And, as for the design,
We just wanted to. There are so many iconic alien species in Star Wars, but we wanted to do something that we hadn't seen a million times before. Give some flavor. We knew we wanted that there's an alienness to his being as well, so we wanted it to be this kind of very sort of elegant and elevated perspective. And I think that the best villains have usually like have some good points that they're making. And so we thought it was important to have Solitus actually have a philosophy that he adhered to in a real way. It's just that his methodology and also that the time that he spent in Forcehold, which we don't really know how long he was in there.
right.
We don't really know. Was it 100 years? Was it 500 years? Was it 5 million years? We don't really know.
And we wanted to give him a really cool lightsaber
And that we, of
that
course.
probably made no sense in live action, but in Lego, it
It
works
makes perfect
and it's cool.
sense. So they were just we challenged ourselves to say what have we not seen in a Star Wars villain up to this point, or what are some elements that we wanted to privilege, and that's where that informed a lot of the things like his design choices, and of course Dan Stevens' performance elevates it to the next level because he's like a genius.
Cool. Hey guys, thanks again for creating another great Star Wars show with season 2. Earlier today, we were talking with Gaten and Tony, and Brandon from Talking B94 made a good point about like the lightsaber colors. And I brought up, of course, I'm going to showcase this because I built it. I love what you guys did with the speeder. And thinking about what Brandon said about the colors, the red lightsaber and the orange lightsaber, looking at the colorway, there's, black and then red, orange, and yellow. Did you kind of do that to mix with the colors of the lightsabers? When you guys are creating these things, do you have the color themes going in mind, the colorways, so to speak, while you're designing different vehicles that are new to the Star Wars franchise?
It's interesting. Like, truthfully, the orange lightsaber for Sig came from Gaten being like, "Hey, I really just want to have an orange lightsaber. No one's done it. Like, can we just do it?" And that took us being like, "Well, I guess, yeah, like that would be fun." And everyone was excited about the idea of, in Lego, we can have a new lightsaber piece that we've never done before, and it just got us all excited. And then, going for the Force burner, like I'm sure, I don't know, did it affect? It might have
Oh,
a
it
little
definitely
bit,
did.
yeah,
Remember, because we knew that he was going to have an orange lightsaber, and
yeah.
we knew that it was going to that we wanted it to pick up on the colors. And one of the really cool things about this whole experience is like I love Lego, but I'm not a fanatic in the sense that Benji was coming into it. But I've learned a lot. Like so, even things like this translucent yellow piece in the cockpit, you have no idea. Like the conversations around this thing, the enthusiasm, the excitement. That was like, we're doing it. We're gonna have the translucent yellow. And so I started to learn myself about like every single decision that is made has a ripple effect, not only in the storytelling, but also in the community of people that, and then I would go after the set was announced and I went on Reddit as, one shouldn't do, but I do anyway. And but all the people are going, I can't believe we got that translucent yellow. We are winning, everyone. And so it was. You never know the things that people get excited
It
about.
wasn't, that ship needed to represent like this Jedi and Sith
Right.
brothers pairing up together, and so like fire is something that feels Sith, and you think of like uh yeah,
Lava,
lava and Vader and
Things like that.
Mustafar,
Yeah.
but the positive end of fire is like a hot rod, and that you don't think of a hot rod's fire as scary. It's cool and fun, and that's what it felt like the perfect
And
balance
that's also
there.
why you needed the black to be represented in the color scheme. But so we all of these things are so interesting and really do require a lot of thought on the front end, especially on the Lego side, because you have to make these decisions years in advance, right? And so then you as a writer and a showrunner have the responsibility to go, okay, how can we make this organic to what we're doing? How can we fold this in such a way that it makes complete sense in the narrative of the story rather than feeling like a thing that we threw in haphazardly, because nothing in this was haphazard at all. So yeah, it was interesting. It was a super interesting experience to get to kind of work on these things from the ground up.
Hey, I'm Brandon from Talking Bay 94. I would love to kind of talk a little bit about comedy in Star Wars. Like the original Star Wars is very funny. A New Hope is like very funny, and then obviously there's the parodies over the years. There's Spaceballs, which I know that y'all are familiar with. But there are other things that have kind of come over the years, whether it is parody or within Star Wars. But I'd be curious, as writers, as showrunners, as when you're breaking the script, is it hard to write comedy in Star Wars? Is it easy? What did you experience with the past two seasons?
I mean, we approach it, the we approach it as fans, honestly. And think of how when you're hanging out with fellow fans and just talking about Star Wars, which is like basically how our friendship began, 20 plus years ago. Like our first time we went out as friends was to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters when we were in college and first met. And you're making jokes about it all the time. Like you're joking about Star Wars, you're riffing on it, but it's from a place of love. Like you're not making fun of it with the comedy. And so, to us, comedy is such like an intrinsic part of the way we write, whether it's Star Wars or any of the other projects we've been fortunate enough to take part in. Like it's the comedy just kind of comes naturally because it's the way people really talk about this stuff.
I think it's a balance. I think that because it's Lego and because it is a little bit more off kilter and a little bit more diagonal, you can do more as far as comedy because you can push it a little farther visually, physical humor.
I would just to add to that, I think one of the one of our goals with both this and the original series is, yes, it's Lego Star Wars. It needs to be fun and silly and all of that playfulness. But Dan and I, when we first started working on the first one, like we were like, this may be our only shot to ever write a Star Wars. Like, this, and so if it is, we better write a Star Wars. And so if you notice, both in the first series and in this one, like by the time you get to the last episode, there's not that many jokes. It's kind of just, surprise, you're watching a Star Wars. And
that was intentional.
And that was intentional. Where like even us, when we are watching it sometime, and we've heard it from other people, it's like you forget you're watching Lego at a certain point where you're just like invested in the characters and what's happening. And so it is a balance. It's like having the fun, but knowing when you need to get serious.
There's a moment in the series where a completed Lego model is taken apart and then rebuilt to create something new. What Lego model have each of you created from your own imagination?
I mean, this is a hobby of mine. We wanted to celebrate that idea in the Lego community. We call them mocks, my own creation. I have at home an entire like Lego city that I'm one of those guys. And so, I've got,
He's being slightly modest because Benji actually built a lot of the prototypes of the mashup ships that we see in the series in his workshop. Not the finished ones, but sort of the prototype pieces, the proof of concept pieces.
I don't want to take any credit for the work of the Lego designers that actually took my barely functional Lego models and made them into stuff that you can play with.
But what was amazing about that is that we actually had someone capable of doing the mashups on his own, as to say something like this, but better, but more polished, but figuring out the actual, sort of engineering and mechanics of the geniuses, at Lego. But it was really, very moving for me to see him. I would.
If you look at like even my Brickhead Ahsoka here, like I can't find the mouth is off right now because I was modifying it to figure out how to actually do the talking. And so when we first had this idea and people were like, wait, you want to have a minifig talking to a Brickhead? How's that going to work? And so I like animated it on my own at home and sent it to the director and to everyone involved to be like, no, look, we can do it. And so I'm constantly tinkering with my Lego.
I'm not quite at that level of skill, so most of my original creations are spent helping my kids have a Sonic versus Minecraft versus Star Wars versus whatever we got in the bin battles. That's what I did all yesterday afternoon.
Sounds like a good battle.
It was a good battle. It worked pretty good. Star Wars one.
I hope you enjoyed that chat. Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past premieres on Friday, September 19th. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.